Hey guys, it's your girl Aisha, aka geekxxchic, and I'm back with another review to The Walking Dead. This is for the latest episode, which was entitled, Who Are You? And clearly that was referring to the fact that we had a group of new people, the ones that Judith serendipitously rescued last episode, and we had, well, it's very interesting because the whole questioning of new people is not new. We've seen that happen before. That was the rule that Rick tried to institute with the council and everything way back when in the prison, pardon me, with the whole idea of questioning people. Well, there was more than 3 questions, but remember there was originally the who are you, what have you done to survive, and how many people have you killed, or something like that. Oh no, who are you, was it who are you before? Yeah, it was who are you before, how many walkers have you killed, and how many humans have you killed. That was what it was. So they've, I guess, evolved the questioning a little bit. The council is back in effect, and with these people arriving, Judith, knowing she blatantly, flagrantly broke the rules in bringing them back, but considering there was one of them that was going to die without medical attention, I don't completely blame her. Plus, she's a kid, very altruistic in her belief system of helping people. Just like Carl, though, like, I don't know how people keep losing the Grimes children. I really hope Michonne puts a tracker on her baby. Oh my God, we'll get to him later. But I digress. But yes, we saw that the community was kind of 50-50 on this group. I really love that Michonne picked up right away who the troublemaker was. And it's not, before some people probably jumped to the conclusion that because she had the big visible tattoo and everything else that was the problem. But I just knew by her attitude. Everybody else in the group you could see was kind of like they were humble. They were kind of like, okay, well, we're a little wary of this place too, and we understand it's their rules. Like this is what, the 3rd camp I think that they said they've been to now, or 4th now. So they kind of knew that you don't walk in and expect things. You kind of come in and you know that whoever's in the group kind of makes the rule as to whether or not they're going to pull you in, and that's the way it goes. But with the girl, I can't remember her name, she had, you know, she was peacocking, right? Even though she said there was no leader, clearly she's the one who's probably made the decisions, I guess, or at least secondarily made decisions beyond the girl that was already concussed and whoever the guy was who died the day before. So I just love, though, that Michonne has always been such a good character judge. Like, this has been a trait of Michonne since she first showed up. Those sharp observation skills have never failed Michonne. Almost every time she's been weary about someone, there's always been a reason, and it turns out to be real, right? There's not a single person I can think of that Michonne is incorrectly judged in a negative fashion. So the fact that she zeroed in on the trouble right off the bat and was like, and then proved. And, you know, it was interesting because that girl said when they were alone later on and they were having that little huddle about whether or not they should do something stupid like try to fight everybody, the girl said, oh, I was set up by that woman. No, I mean, in a way, yes, Michonne could have taken the knife out when she first felt it, but she knew in that particular moment that everyone was watching in a way that, okay, they knew that there was an injured party. Everyone was kind of like, and she knew it didn't look good for them to be fighting in front of the new people, right? It just wasn't the right time for her to pull out this knife and be like, see, get out. It was much better for her to do it when everyone was calm, when the person who was hurt was medically attended to, and after they'd said their pieces, and she gave, the best part was she gave that girl the shot. She gave her the opportunity at that point to say, you know what, guys, here's the truth about me. Here, or even if she didn't want to get into her past of being a prisoner, she could have at least given up the weapon at that point and been like, you know what, here, I kept this because I didn't trust you guys, but here's my show of goodwill. But she didn't do it. So Michonne was like, okay, you're not going to be honest, then I'm going to be honest for you. And she just took charge and showed everybody that this girl couldn't be trusted. Now, she didn't say that about the group, but I feel like it seemed like the rest of the group knew she had the knife, but maybe they didn't. But anyway, Michonne did exactly what she needed to do, which was prove that this girl was not being 100 with them as far as her intent and as far as trusting themselves with her. And I mean, and I get it. You know, Michonne said it as perfectly as she could, like at the end where she's like, I get it. We're in this world. We all have to deal with the way things are. Like, we all have to protect ourselves. And so that moment when you're coming into somebody else's house, as it were, and you're saying, hey, can you let us in? Can you let us stay? You need to show that you can be trusted. Because of course that community was taking a massive risk by taking them in, even just to treat that girl, and taking an even bigger one by letting them in their community where they sleep, where they put their guard down at night. They need to know that they can trust you, and gestures of honesty and goodwill would go really, really far in that case. But as we saw, she decided to be secretive, and even then it was good that we saw that, because later on we saw when she was having her little whatever, her powwow with her pals, she was actually thinking about attacking Michonne. So Michonne was right. She wasn't the right fit perhaps for that community at that point, but really well done. I love that they showed that Michonne is always just, she's watching. Like, don't sleep on Michonne. Michonne is watching when you don't even know she's watching. She can have her back turned, and I promise you, her Michonne's senses are tingling and she knows what's going on. So don't even try it with her. And I love, oh my God, how much did I love that part where when Michonne started to walk out after she made her case, and the woman's like, can I ask you a question? Michonne's like, no. Actually, this is my house. You don't question me. I'll do the questioning here. The people in the end deciding against violence was very smart as well, because first of all, there's no way they would have survived it, but more importantly, don't mess with Michonne. Like, that would have been the end of all of them right there and then. If those guys tried to attack her when her babies are in that place, Michonne would have killed some mofos, okay? So I like that at the end, when the girl finally did surrender the absolute last weapon, which was in the girl who was unconscious. She had a knife in her necklace. Man, I gotta get me some weapon wear. Like, where are they finding this stuff? But anyways, when she finally surrenders it and shows Michonne, like, look, okay, now here's everything, and I get it now why you're working so hard to protect this place. She saw the little baby, who we don't know his name yet, but she sees that, she saw at least why Michonne was being the way she was, because remember, in those exchanges she saw between Judith and Michonne, Judith did not call Michonne mom, and of course most people are not going to make the association of them being parent and child because they look different. But as soon as she saw that that little boy was in that house and Michonne was a mother, it all changed for her and clicked for her to realize that Michonne's not just protecting what they have in the sense of, ooh, we got it and you don't, but she has things that mean a lot to protect, and as well as her, you know, her children and her family. So I like that moment, and I like that Michonne kind of came to the conclusion that she couldn't really bend on her rule of letting them stay in Alexandria, because the rules are there for a reason. And also, let's face it, a girl like the one with the knife, I wish I knew her name, if you don't hold fast to the rules with a girl like her, she is always going to be that person who's going to keep questioning and pushing and trying to undercut, and you don't need that. You don't need that, not after everything they've been through. So I like that Michonne came up with the compromise of, why don't we take you to another community that probably needs more people than we do, and maybe Maggie's less stringent on her rules about accepting people, but also she knows Maggie will take care of herself as well. Maggie's got her kids there, and she's really ready and willing to put a bullet through somebody who tries any kind of foolery. So I like that. That was a cool little storyline. I mean, I didn't much care about the people. I kind of rolled my eyes a bit through the guy's sob story, the teacher's sob story about everything, because we've been through it. Unfortunately, as someone who's been watching since day one, we've already seen every sob story there is, so unfortunately we're a bit desensitized to them now, but I'm glad that they're moving on. I feel like we spent enough time on them to that we're going to see them for the rest of this season. We'll see how they all correlate and who becomes interesting and who isn't. But I am really happy to see that they brought in a deaf character. It's very hard in a show like this to bring in people who have handicaps, because the first thing most people are going to think is, how long can you last in this world? Particularly with handicaps like blindness or deafness or any kind of walking impediment. And I like that we're seeing a few people here and there. I mean, blindness I think would still be a little bit detrimental in this world, but deafness is definitely something that can be managed. I mean, she could still feel vibration, she can still smell. There's still a lot of other senses that could probably help her survive, along with, of course, I'm assuming that's her sister. I just like seeing diversity in all kinds of ways on television. So it's just cool to have her character for as long as she lasts. But I am always worried when they bring in more black people, because there is a quota on this show, and I'm a little worried that now that we brought in 2 more, that we might be losing somebody else. Okay, we can't be losing Ezekiel. Well, Gabriel I've always been ambivalent about, to be perfectly honest. But we'll see what happens. Which, speaking of Ezekiel, interesting storyline with Carol and Henry and how things are going at Kingdom. I mean, it was kind of already foreshadowed that her and Ezekiel were going to get married, Carol and Ezekiel, and it's cute to see them. Ezekiel are adorable as always. I love the way they balance each other out. As I mentioned, I think last season, the levity that King Ezekiel has, with Carol being more grounded and a badass, is the perfect mix for them. And I think it's really what the Kingdom needs as well. to continue to thrive and do well, because as we learn in this episode, since Rick died, it looks like so did any effort to unify all of these communities. So it looks like everyone's kind of doing their own thing. There seems to be a, what's the word, like a quiet, tactile peace going on, it looks like. Like, I guess no one's actively trying to get in each other's business, but they're not really working with each other either. And then we've got stragglers, as we learned this episode. People, it looks like the sanctuary went down, which I think we all knew was going to happen. They couldn't grow their own crops. They really didn't have any way to sustain themselves. Everything about Sanctuary was based on things being brought to them. So once that ended, Sanctuary was really kind of screwed, and I think the majority of the Sanctuary were former saviors, and a good chunk of them were people who chose to be saviors. They weren't ones who were forced into it. Most of those people left Sanctuary right after Negan was taken down. So we see that they're kind of just roaming around like marauders now because they don't want to be part of the communities, and we know why. But wow, that whole thing with Carol, I mean, I love how this episode showed that, you know, Carol has become domesticated in some ways, you know, marrying Ezekiel, allowing herself to love again, have this family. Henry's now their adopted son. He's calling her mom. He's calling Ezekiel dad, which is great. But here we saw Henry doubting, having the nerve, the absolute gall to doubt the lethality, the absolute brutality that is Carol. Okay, no. She didn't show him directly because, bless her, Carol's still trying to keep him kind of shielded. I mean, he did see a lot of death and violence, and he did murder someone when he was 10. But beyond that, she is trying to kind of keep him as normal as possible. So, but I thought it was interesting that we saw Henry challenging whether or not Carol was still the edgy person he met all those years ago who told him to go away and, you know, hurt his feelings to try to keep him away. And seeing that he kind of, you know, he didn't like the fact that with those guys when they came, again, like, all right, let me back up. Henry, I need these kids in this show to settle the hell down. They're always the cause of so many problems. Henry ran off the first time, was lost for half a day, almost got himself killed in a swamp with walkers, okay? You think the kid would learn about not just running off willy-nilly. Yes, he can swing the stick around a little bit, but first of all, we all know Morgan didn't finish the training, so he is nowhere near Morgan. Also, Morgan's crazy, so that's also a big advantage when you're trying to kill people. Henry thinks he's more of a badass than he is, and that's dangerous. Okay, but obviously Ezekiel and Carol are not discouraging that enough for him to not go running off, thinking he can handle things. Someone's screaming by themselves in the apocalypse at this point. Too bad for you. Too bad for you. Who screams for help, knowing that walkers run towards noise? Anyway, so that whole situation, I love how, like, of course, when they came and they took everything from Carol, and Henry was so mad because he's like, oh, Mom, why didn't you try to do anything? Why didn't you? And she's like, there was no point. Which she was so right. In that particular situation, they were already set up to hurt them if necessary. There were more of them on alert than there were of the two of them, and both of them didn't have any weapons or cover. And more importantly, those people already knew Carol. They knew that Carol's a badass with a weapon, so they're not going to take Carol out of their sight, right? So she knew better. Carol is so good at assessing a situation before she strikes. So I love it. You know, Henry sitting there thinking, oh, my mom's such a wuss now. She doesn't care anymore. You messed with her kid. That is one thing Carol will never, ever, ever, Queen Carol, I'm sorry, I should amend myself. She will never let that happen again after Sophia. So exactly, she waited till they had to sleep, because they had to sleep sometime. And you know what, she would have let them go. She probably would have let them go, but then they took her ring. They disrespected her. They took the ring that Kang Ezekiel gave to her. Oh no, oh no, was that gonna happen? No. I knew right then and there, oh, you're gonna die. I didn't think it was gonna happen that soon, but I'm like, you're gonna die. You and Carol are gonna meet up again, and she's gonna remind you that you done screwed up. That was great comeuppance, and I love it because it's not the first time that Carol has roasted people while they were still alive. That's her thing now. We should call her Burner Carol, you know what I mean? She just, this is the second time she's burnt a bunch of saviors alive. It's like her way of dealing with all of her inner angst. I love it. And the fact that she did it sociopathically, no emotion, just like, yep, you know, I saw that the stuff that you gathered were from people who've left my community. You've been stealing from them, probably killing some of them, and then you took my ring and you touched my boy. So, yeah, no, this is gonna have to happen. There's no trial, we all know that if Ezekiel was there, Ezekiel would have let them live. So no, Carol's like, I'm gonna take care of this, and I'm gonna spare my boy from seeing the horrors of you all burning alive. And yes, Carol took care of business, got her ring back, and calmly went back to sleep beside her son like nothing happened. Like, I love Carol so much, and I love that she's still this sociopathic badass who's living a domestic life. She's a literal Stepford wife. It's great. Interesting, other than that, was Ezekiel mentioning the fact that something's got to happen. This fair, he kept mentioning there's going to be a fair coming up, so my guess is that he's invited other communities to come and maybe have a celebration, and the hopes are to maybe open up negotiations again to get trade or something going on, because I'm thinking that all these communities have got to be struggling to some degree, because as Rick brought out many episodes ago, every community is missing something, and if they could all work together, they would all have common resources the way we do in the world today. So anyway, that'll be interesting to see how that kind of goes going forward and what this fair is all about, and inevitably something horrible is going to happen with it. Other than that, we have the side story of the whole getting the radio signal out with Eugene and Rosita. First time we've seen them in a while. They've been pretty quiet for this season so far. I don't know how I feel about the whole Rosita and Father Gabriel thing. I had a hard time believing him and Jadis, and I mean, I'm blown away. Like, props to you, Father Gabe. Like, you are a player in the apocalypse, yo. You be getting more action than most of these folks. And you're a priest. You're a man who swore your life to God. Anyway, but beyond that, the radio signal thing, I get it. It is a bit of a double-edged sword. I mean, I can't fault Father Gabriel for wanting to see if there are other communities, especially again with the situation being that the communities that he does know of, that they're not all communicating or they're not in good terms right now. So if there are other communities that they can trade with or get more resources from, I can see where he's excited about that. But I also understand why Michonne is like, nuh-uh, like, we don't know. Not all new people are good people. Hello, the garbage people, right? They were a new group of people we thought we could trust, and they stabbed us in the back and literally shot me. So it's, I understand Michonne being leery of opening up their community to any possible threat out there who may not be looking to have a goodwill relationship with somebody else. But we'll see. The radio was planted before all hell broke loose there, so we'll see if that is something that's going to get them in contact with the group that picked up Jadis, or if it's going to be a bad group. The other big, huge, massive thing of the episode was, guys, there's a baby. Okay, so we all remember that back on episode 3, I think it was, Rick was talking to Michonne and he was like, well, you need to do a little bit of baby making because that's what we're good at. And because they're hot as hell. But we didn't know if it was going to go anywhere, right? I mean, they've been talking about this last season. We know they've been practicing for some time now. But it looks like they hit a home run at some point. And thankfully it happened before Rick was taken from her. He did not die, we know that. So we didn't know, and I wasn't sure if they were gonna do it. I was really hoping the show would, but in all fair disclosure, I actually read on a spoiler site that baby Rick was confirmed, and so that made me so, so happy. We don't have a name. She did not say a name for what his name is. So I'm okay with a junior, like if they do name him Richard or Rick, not Little Dicky. It was just really heartwarming to see that Michonne is another baby boy and that she had another shot at being a mom in the whole sense of the term. Of course, she was a mom to Judith and to Carl, but we all know that just having, again, that idea of her being pregnant again, and more importantly, having this peace, because there is, at this moment, even though Judith is their child and was Rick's child in heart and in spirit, she knows Judith is not actually Rick's child, and so there is no biological piece of Rick left. And I'm not going to get to the big, deep discussion about how it doesn't really matter, because it's true that even though Judith isn't Rick's child, there's a lot of Rick's influence that's being put in her life and what she does remember of him. But you know what I mean. Like, there is a special relationship and bond in the idea of having this little piece of Rick, and it's something that Rick wanted. That's kind of like a final wish that got granted for him. So I'm really hoping that in the upcoming movies that come out that we get, I really hope Rick gets a chance to know that he's a father again. I think he's going to be so excited about that and happy about it. I have no idea what's going to happen in those movies and if he's going to survive them, but if he should, I just love the idea. Like, I feel let me just get a little bit into predictions where that's concerned. Since the movies were announced and we know that Andy Lincoln's going to be part of both of them, my hope, I don't know if I say hope, but my guess is, I mean, Denai loves this show and I think she enjoys being on it, but let's be real, she's kind of outgrown it. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's been in a $1 billion movie, $2 billion movies, because Avengers and Black Panther. She's gonna be in the upcoming movies as well, which Black Panther, they just started writing Black Panther 2 earlier this year, and I'm sure they're gonna start filming sometime next year. So my point is, between that, plus she's a playwright, plus she's been doing a lot of other side projects and movies, my guess is Denai really doesn't have any reason to stick on this show for the next 5 years. It's just, unless she really loves it, but there's not a need. She's definitely an in-demand actress now, so I would not be surprised if after these 2 full-length films, this is kind of a little bit of a swan song for maybe Denai's character, that maybe while Rick may not ever return to the show, he may still exist in this world, and we might see, I could totally see Michonne's character at some point, maybe towards the end of the season, being like, I can't live without my husband. Like, I can't be without my man. My baby has a right to grow up knowing his daddy. Like, we're gonna go off and we're gonna be with him and we're gonna be a family. Because the fact that we've seen Michonne talking to Rick, to dead Rick, the same way that Rick talked to Lori when Lori died, the ways that she talked to her ex, it's just heartbreaking, because again, it just shows that, like, Michonne's done this before with people that she loves, and she doesn't have that emotional resolution yet. She does that talking to them, the conversations with them, and thankfully she's not carrying a walker around with a cowboy hat, but it's still the same idea of her not being able to let go of that connection with Rick and how deep it went for her. That's a real indicator of how deep her relationship was with Rick and how much she loved him, and that she's having these conversations again with him. So it just makes it all the more heartbreaking knowing that he's still alive out there, and her wearing the shirt and smelling it because she loves him so much and she misses him so much, and I'm sure that shirt has not been washed in how many years it's been. But it's really sweet to see how that relationship still means so much to her, that she still talks to Rick and she still looks to him for advice even though he's not there, and that the decisions she makes even now are based on what she thinks Rick would want or Rick would do. So yeah, that was the majority of this episode, guys. It was really interesting. I think they did well in shadowing the fact that Andy's gone and respecting the fact that there's a loss being felt, but also pushing things forward. They said it several times in the first few minutes with Michonne's monologue that we have to move forward, we have to push on and create this world that's without Rick, which has been about him for the last 9 seasons. We definitely have a lot going on. Of course, as I mentioned at the outset, the talking walker. I still don't know how I feel about that. We'll see how I feel next week when we delve more into it, hopefully. But the walkers are evolving. I was thinking more along the lines of being more organized in how they go for food. But if they start talking, y'all, I'm not about people. I cannot even fathom the idea of, like, Maggie and Michonne sitting down and having a long-ass conversation with a walker who's like the king of the walker. I can't. Imagine a Negan walk. I can't. I cannot. I really can't. Actually, now that I mentioned Negan, sorry, one more little tidbit. They've given Carl's storyline to the baby, Judith. The relationship between Negan and Judith, which I'm not okay with, first and foremost, because she's way too young for that sociopath. But they've given it to her, and I don't know if I like the idea of it at all. Like, I feel like that ship has sailed, and it would have been so much better if they'd had it with Carl and not killed Carl in the first place. And we'll see what comes of that. I'm hoping that it gets squashed early, because I'm just really not about it, even a little bit. So, what did you guys think of this episode? How do you feel with Andy being out of the picture, or Rick being out of the picture, although he was kind of very heavily felt in this episode? Please leave your comments below. I love reading them and getting involved in that conversation with you. And if you like this video, guys, please click like. And if you want to see more from this geeky face, please click subscribe. Until next time,